Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and whether we can get a bounce here in the short term. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Now, I don't typically like making these videos, mainly because they can often age like milk, right? We could wake up tomorrow, Bitcoin could be trading for $35,000, right? Or a couple days from now, we could be trading for 30K or something. But there is, in my opinion, as ignorant as my opinion might be, I would think that there is a decent probability in the short term that we get a bounce. Okay, and the reason I say that is well, for a number of reasons. First of all, we are at macro support right now. Okay, and I've been I've tried to be fairly careful about when I say I think things are going to bounce, because it's one of those things where, if you say it's going to bounce and then it doesn't, and then you say it again a few days later and then it doesn't, people just stop caring. Okay, so I don't make many videos like this, right? But I wanted to outline some of the reasons why I think it might bounce. And I mean, feel free to agree or disagree. Okay, this is just me kind of going off on a rant and trying to see what's going on with the market here. All right. So the first thing I would look at here is to say, is there a lot of market structure at 40K? And I would say there is. Okay, it does seem like there is a decent amount of structure here for the market to support a bounce. There have been plenty of times where these levels have been respected in the past. Okay, and not only on the upside, not only when we're coming down to it, but also when we're going up to it as well. I mean, you just simply draw a line, and you can see that this was a huge level earlier this year, or sorry, not this year, back in 2021. We're now in 2022. 40K, 42K, that area was a huge level that we ended up getting rejected off of. And then later in the summer, we had this move, which took us back to this current level, and we got rejected off of it. Okay, so this does seem to be a point where market participants might say, you know what? This is the at least the local turnaround point. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the video, what I mean by local. The other thing is that when we came back down in September of 2021, this is in fact where we held the line. Okay, and I'm going to be talking about this a lot too. So it's going to be kind of a long video probably. But I look at the chart and I say, look guys, resistance here, resistance here, support here. Okay, and we also know that historically when we hold the 20-week at a certain level, we have not gone below that price. Now, I do think it is certainly possible we could go below 40K, but at least in the short term, I would argue I would be hard pressed to not see it bounce relatively soon. Okay, somewhere around these levels, or I mean, we've already been visiting 40K a lot. We could go back down there. Maybe we even go slightly below, but it seems to me that when markets are in a downtrend, if it is a sustained downtrend, they don't just go down. Right? You do see bounces back up along the way. So I look at it and I say, well, look, from a market structure perspective, this does seem like a fairly important level. So that's point number one. From a market structure perspective, it seems like a fairly important level. Point number two would be the market is extremely fearful right now. Okay, and I mean, I see the sentiment. I mean, I see the responses and stuff. And if you go look at the fear and greed index, this is what you see, and you can see that we're in extreme fear. Yesterday was also extreme fear. Okay, if we go look at this chart here, you can see that we came all the way down to 10 yesterday. In fact, it's hard to line it up, but you can see we came all the way down to 10 there. The other thing I want to show, and I'm going to pull this up here in a second. If we look at the fear and greed index, but we're going to sort of plot it over the Bitcoin price so that you guys can actually see what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Okay, so we're definitely in some pretty extreme fear right now. Now, we also saw fear over here. We also saw fear over here. And you know that these phases of fear can last quite a while. I would say the fear and greed index should not be used, in my opinion, to know exactly when to buy or sell. Because back in November, I mean, it was already trading or it was already showing extreme greed in the 90s when Bitcoin was still below the prior all time high. So if you had sold all of your Bitcoin when it showed extreme greed in the 90s back in November of 2020, you would have missed out on what came in early 2021. And that, of course, that wouldn't have been any fun, right? So I don't think it's fair to say that just because we're in fear, we have to go up the next day, or just because we're in greed, we have to go down the next day. But it does give you a general idea of what the market is feeling. And of course, right now, the market is relatively fearful. So you have a lot of fear in the market, right? In addition to having a lot of fear in the market, we have, I mean, at least from a structural perspective, it seems like 40K is a fairly important level, right? I mean, like if you had to look at this chart and, you know, someone just said, all right, what's an important level on this chart? You would probably go all the way over to the left and say, all right, what was the first rejection point? And see kind of where we got rejected and came back down. And then you would note that, oh, we also got rejected at that same point here. Obviously, you would also probably look at the upper part of the range as well. You'd probably look at the bottom part of the range. And then you'd probably look somewhere here in the middle. Okay, so I'm just saying, it seems like a pretty important area. So, first reason, structural support at this area. Second reason, fear and greed. I mean, we're super fearful right now, right? The market is on the edge of its seat. Like, you know, I people are really struggling in this market. Okay. The third reason why I think that there could be a bounce sometime in the relative short term would be that shorts have to get punished too, right? At least I would imagine. The people who are shorting are making a lot of money, and you know, more power to them. They've been making a lot of money, but I also imagine there's a lot of late shorts coming in and maybe setting bids at 40K. Like they're basically they're short selling super late in the game, right? Whereas maybe they should have done it at 60K or 65K. Now they're doing it at 40K and 41K, and they're trying to push the price down. And it's not going down yet, right? It's still hanging above 40K, and so the market likes to punish people who are late, right? That's what it does. It's what it always does. So it's a third reason. I mean, a lot of shorts are in significant profits. A lot of them are greedy in the short term. And you know what? I don't think it would take that much to see a liquidation cascade in the short term back up to the upside, if I'm being completely honest, right? I don't think it would take that much. I mean, you get the train rolling a little bit. If we can get back to 42K, and if we can push past like that 42.3K level, so let me zoom in here on. I know we don't talk about hourly time frames much, but if we can get past this level right here, and come up here and take out 42.3 and go back to 43, and then people start thinking, well, we've come this far, we might as well keep on going, right? We might as well keep on going and then people might start thinking, well, you know what? I mean, if you look back just a week or a few weeks ago, we were up at this range and we've come down so far. So if we were able to come back up to the 42K area or the 43K area, I got to imagine that some people are going to be eyeballing that area too. Okay. So I think that there are a lot of reasons to think that in the short term, we could see a bounce. So I've gone over 3 reasons so far. A fourth reason would be to look at the RSI. All right, so we're going to look at the relative strength index. And, you know, on a technical level here, you can in fact see that, technically speaking, we are oversold. So if it's below 30, we're oversold. Does that mean we can't go below that? No, I mean, we could go way below that. I mean, just look at what happened in November 2018. We went down to 9. Right now we're at 30. So we could certainly go below the current levels, but technically oversold, Fear and greed index is abysmal. Major market support. There's got to be a ton of late shorts that probably missed the boat from 60K to 40K, and now they want to ride it from 40K to 30K. Be nice to get, I mean, yeah, I don't want to say be nice, but the market probably would like to punish those late market participants to the game. And another thing is Bitcoin's been dumping on the weekend. Okay, and I know it's like a lot of times when we see these like mini cycles play out, what you'll notice is like it'll pump during the week and then it'll dump on the weekends, or it'll dump during the week and then it'll pump on the weekends. Now it just seems to be dumping during the week and dumping on the weekends. And I was actually thinking maybe we get a bounce this weekend. So far that hasn't happened. But maybe as we get into the next few days, we'll see something like that. So I just wanted to show the different reasons why in the short term I do think we could see a bounce relatively soon. Another thing is also to look at Ethereum as well. I mean, it just went down to $3,000, which does seem like a fairly major support level for Ethereum as well. So I'm looking for a potential short-term bounce. Now, the next question I imagine someone would ask would be, well, probably a couple questions. What if we wake up tomorrow and we're at 35K? Oh, then I was wrong, right? Then I was wrong. And I'll take the L on that. But the other question would be, what if it does bounce? Well, then what? What comes after that? Well, I think what comes after that is, I mean, probably a better discussion for another video, if I'm being completely honest. But what comes after that would be interesting to say the least. Not because I think we have to immediately go put on our rally caps on. I actually think we have quite a bit of work to do to claw our way out of this current trend. And I think that, I think that in the next few months are going to be, let's put it this way. I'm not envisioning new all-time highs in the next few months. Now, later this year, yeah, I think it could certainly happen. But at least in the short term, I'm not overly optimistic on Bitcoin. The first thing I would say that I would want to see would be we need to get a move out of this area. Okay, so let's go through the beginning, right? Major market support, RSI is oversold. Fear is, I mean, it was 10 yesterday. 4 would be, there's got to be a lot of late shorts. Number 5 is, of course, the bull market support band holding it as support over here. It could be number 5, but I would say that kind of lumps in with major market support to some degree, but maybe not. Maybe that's actually its own thing, right? So you have major market support, and then 5 would be the bull market support band holding it here. Number 6 would be the idea of the Wyckoff accumulation stuff. Okay, so basically what we're talking about there is the idea that we're repeating this pattern of down, up, and then coming up here. I could probably draw this out better, right? So like we had 1, 2, 3, if I can actually write, 1, 2, 3 lower highs, and then the fourth one took us higher. We capitulated back down to the first capitulation wick, but then we actually got to bounce back out, and then we had another test once more later. So then we had 1, 2, 3. We bounced here at 4. We came back down to where we first came down capitulation wick. So now what we're looking is for a bounce back up. Okay, so those are 6 reasons, at least why I, ignorant or not, think that in the short term Bitcoin is likely to see a bounce. All right. Again, I understand that this prediction could age like milk, and I could take the L on that. But I just wanted to kind of outline what I'm seeing in the market right now. I should also say that I don't trade that stuff. I mean, I DCA Bitcoin when I think it's a good buy. I think over the macro scale, 40K is a great buy for Bitcoin, even if it means we end up going to 30K or even lower, right? Even if we go to 25K, DCAing for the next year or something between 30K and 60K, whatever happens, whether we spend 3 more months at these levels, 6 more months, 9 more months, I do think this is a fairly decent range, and the market is basically adjusting to what the new normal is. So in the short term, I do think Bitcoin will get a bounce. I could be completely wrong. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? I understand that I could easily be wrong, but at least I've outlined the evidence as to why I think there is a potential bounce. And then another reason, maybe a seventh reason, is how bearish everyone is. Like everyone and their moms are calling for 30K tomorrow, right? Like they're like it's basically just like doom and gloom every step of the way. Like all the people that were calling for non-diminishing returns in Q4 2021, right? The people that were calling for like 300K Bitcoin in December, they've all now sudden reversed, and now they're calling for 10K Bitcoin. So I kind of look at those and I'm like, okay, well, your unrealistic price targets to the upside didn't pan out, but now you want everyone to believe your unrealistic targets to the downside. I think a much better strategy is more middle of the road, right? Like, yes, it's good to be conservative, but to say Bitcoin's going to go back to $10,000, I think is quite a bit of a stretch. So let's see what happens here in the short term. I think the clear invalidation of this theory would be a capitulation, where we don't have sort of this like efficient selling. So what I mean by efficient selling is when we're in a downtrend like this, the people are basically just systematically booking profits, and they're probably doing so with a fairly level head. When you get something like this is just a liquidation cascade, okay? And it's a lot of times it's hard to predict exactly when they occur. This move here we've broken down, but it hasn't really been a major liquidation cascade, right? I mean, it's just people are just selling, right? They're just selling, and you're not seeing this like major capitulation wick like we saw here or like we saw over here. So I think the invalidation of a potential bounce, while a lot of people might look at it and say, well, look, Ben was wrong, I would actually say that if that happens, it would actually probably be better for at least the short-term bullishness of Bitcoin. Like if we did take out 40K here and kind of come all the way down on some massive capitulation wick, like I would be so bullish like down at these levels. Like if we came back down to these levels, I think this would be a great opportunity in that scenario if we were to come back down to those levels. But I'm just saying in the short term, I think it's more likely that we go up from here. And I don't know exactly how high. I think the first thing to do is to probably put this video out. Hope it doesn't age like milk. If it does age like milk, probably not mention it again. But if it does not age like milk, then we can actually talk about, well, what are we looking at now? Like, what are the major targets we need to take out, and what would be sort of like some invalidation criteria to stop the downtrend? Okay, because we know that the downtrend has been pretty brutal. If we look at some of these Heiken Ashi candles, I mean, it's absolutely brutal. And one of the things I said in a recent video was, if you don't have the money, it's kind of cliche to just say buy the dip for people that don't have a lot of cash to buy the dip with, right? So if you don't have cash just sitting around, or you have a small amount that you would like to time, first of all, I would say I don't think anyone here is going to be able to tell you exactly the best time to enter or exit the market, right? I don't. But what I would say is that even in the bounce in the short term, that doesn't mean that you necessarily should have FOMO'd everything in at this point, because even if it bounces, it doesn't mean we're going to immediately put in new all-time highs, right? We could bounce, we could even come back down and retest it again. We could bounce and then we could come back down and take it out. Okay? So the point is if you're nervous and you can barely stand to watch the market, then you can of course leave what you have in, but you don't need to keep putting money into the market if this type of price action is making you lose sleep at night, right? Just wait, be patient. The market will eventually get to the point where it won't be so bad, and we'll be able to have realistic and normal conversations again without everyone being so upset with the current market conditions. So anyways, I outlined my reasons why I think in the short term, I would say, look, there's a good chance we can get a bounce here. The invalidation would probably be a capitulation. It's hard for me to imagine us going below 40K. I mean, let me say that we could go below it. We know there was some support at this level, right, at like 37, 38. But what I have a hard time imagining is I have a hard time imagining just like a slow downtrend that doesn't actually get one of those capitulation wicks. Okay, so that's what I mean. But anyways, let's see if we bounce here. This seems like a reasonable place, major market support, et cetera, et cetera. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. We also do the Telegram channel and the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.